Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Justin Dennison. I manage institutional sales here at Equinix, but more importantly, I'll be your host today for what's going to be a very interesting discussion. So earlier this month, we listed Polygon Network's native token, Matic, on Equinix following an extensive review by our listing committee. We're very excited to welcome the CEO of Polygon, Jayanti Kanani, to join us for today's discussion. Great to have you here, Jayanti.
Thank you, Justin, and thanks for having me.
We're also joined by Kelvin Ting, so head of blockchain strategy and also head of the coin listing committee here at Equinix. Welcome, Kelvin.
Thank you very much, Justin. And hello, everybody. We're looking forward to a good evening of discussions.
Awesome. And indeed, thank you all for taking the time to join us today. Before we begin, I'd just like to encourage everyone watching to ask questions using the Q&A function as we go through the webinar, and then we can make sure we cover everything. So I'd like to start off by learning a little bit more about our panelists. Jayanti, let's start with you. Can you tell us a bit about your background and how you got into crypto?
Yeah, definitely, Justin. So before I started Matic Network, now it's Polygon, I was a data scientist at housing.com, and housing.com is a big, at the time, like 2016, 17, it was a big real estate startups in India. And when I was in housing.com, I was also tinkering around with multiple side projects on my own. As a developer, you always kind of, start coding, keep building something here and there, just for the fun, sometimes for the fun, sometimes for you wanted to build something out of the side projects, etc. So at the time, like in 2017, I was building a project called Game of Theories. So Game of Theories is basically a platform to create a betting, create your own TV series theories like Game of Thrones. Let's say after an episode of the Game of Thrones, you go on the platform called Game of Theories and create your theories like who will die, who will resurrect, or what will happen to one particular character, and then other people can go ahead and put money on the theories, and if you win, you get the money, right? If you're right about the theories, you get the money. So this is kind of just a rough idea I was playing around at the time. And then I wanted to integrate a payment system for that site, right, for the project. And I didn't want to create a bank account and the company entities, legal entities for that, right? Let's say if you want to integrate Stripe or Paytm in India, you need a bank account, entity somewhere, right? Legal entity to do that. What I thought, this is a side project. It's just the fun. Like, let me also explore the Bitcoin or Ethereum kind of cryptocurrency and see like if I can integrate that without a bank account, right? And that's where I kind of went deep into the Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? And slowly I explored the multiple things. I created a tools called Dagger at the time for the Ethereum, right? So Dagger is just a tool where you can listen to particular event if you make a transactions on Ethereum smart contract. So those kind of things, small things I was doing. I was doing freelancing, and then kind of 2017 boom happened. Like everyone got kind of, I also kind of invested few money into crypto at the time, and I got kind of good returns. So I was happy. So I left my job, ditched my side project, and went full into crypto and exploring and freelancing, and see if I can do or build something in crypto. So that was the whole journey, like freelancing, my first side project, and then freelancing, investing, and then started Matic because the whole network was jammed in 2017, right?
Yes.
CryptoKitty, because of the CryptoKitty and the hype. So if you like, it was a no-brainer that we need a scalability solution, right? And multiple people were working on, but there is no product ready. So I thought, like, it's a good chance to build something out of in the scalability space, and that's how like I started the Matic Network. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a great origin story. Totally unexpected, but great to hear. Kelvin, how about yourself actually? What drew you to crypto?
Sure. So I actually first started hearing about crypto when I was back in uni. This was, I think, sometime in 2012. Essentially, I heard about Bitcoin at the start, but well, my background is actually computer science, and I think what really drew me to it was the fact that you could actually transfer funds from one person to another without a centralized party. However, as a student, you don't really see the effects that this has on the rest of the world at the time. So I didn't really go too much into it. But it wasn't until when I started working for an options trading platform where my boss basically said, let's integrate Bitcoin into our trading platform. So I think it's a very similar story to JT in the sense that we had to create a payment system using crypto. So essentially what we did was look at the white paper, look at the technical documentations, set up a lot of nodes and a lot of clients. And basically we had to integrate a Bitcoin deposits and withdrawal systems from scratch. And so my journey into Bitcoin was actually one which was commanded by my boss at the time. But nonetheless, it is still a very interesting journey about going into this thing. So I found it very, very fascinating. I integrated Bitcoin and Ethereum into the company's deposits and withdrawal systems. And after that, I went on to crypto.com. So I was actually one of the first blockchain engineers at crypto.com. And when I first joined the company, everything was actually manual. So if you wanted to perform a deposit or a withdrawal, it would take about 2 days for it to be confirmed. And basically this sort of goes against the whole premise of crypto. So I actually automated the entire process. I built a scalable deposits and withdrawal system and integrated 28 different cryptocurrencies into crypto.com's deposits and withdrawal system. So basically, it was a payments journey from me from the start.
Okay, wonderful. That's also an awesome origin story. Maybe JT, just to go back to you, and I think you've touched upon it already with the CryptoKitty issue that you faced at the time. But can you tell us a bit more quickly how Polygon came to be, where the idea of the coin itself came from? Of course, we're going to dig into the more tech side of things deeper later on, but where did the idea originate for the coin and the network?
Yeah. So, as I said, just after the CryptoKitty happened, like I thought, this is the best time to create something in general, like in the scalability space. And if you see the landscape of scalability in 2017, late 2017, and early 2018, uh, Vitalik Buterin at the time just published the Plasma white paper, right? And it was there, and then few people were working on the set channels, similar to Bitcoin, like where you can two parties can create a simple set channels and send transactions or send tokens to one each other, or maybe you can use the multiple hoping network, like multiple hopes and send tokens through the set channels. But what we think is kind of uh, that is not going to work because people need EVM compatibility, right? People just need more than just a transfers, right? If you just provide transfer, that's fine up to some certain limit. But if you let's say want to have a blockchain everywhere, or use the blockchain to alleviate no blockchain to kind of in, uh, just change the financial system, you need more than just the transfers. You need contracts, you have a custom code. uh, so that's where the idea began. And we thought kind of, no, developers are similar, right? Developers are lazy people, and they don't want to put so much effort to create something for their own. They just kind of use something, and if it works, this just works. They don't like to fix things. They just kind of create something, it works, and that's it. Right? So the idea was similar, kind of, if we can give the similar experience of Ethereum instead of the complex one for the scaling, they will just use that. And that's how like the Polygon network came into the picture. And the and kind of we launched the mainnet. We have a token where you can stake and provide a security around the network. So yeah, so this is just a simple idea, like we just executed very nicely and onboarded thousands of developers on the Polygon. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's very interesting. And actually, that leads me into the next part. I wanted to kind of take a step back and look at the issues of scalability that you just mentioned. What is it and why is it such an issue? I think it's important for people to understand. Kelvin, do you want to start? And then JT, please come in. And if there's anything else you'd like to add, on explaining what scalability is and why it's been an issue for a while. We'll be interested to hear both of your thoughts.
Yep, for sure. So I guess when you come to think about blockchains or any payment or transaction system out there, there is a limited amount of transactions that can go through at any given time. So if you've been in the blockchain space since I think about 2016, 2017, and if you were trading Bitcoin at the time when it was priced at 20K, you would have experienced a lot of issues at the time. So I recall I was actually placing a trade at 20K and I was trying to do an arbitrage trade. And because the network was so congested, I wasn't able to arbit in time because basically transactions were backed up all the way for 3 months. So essentially my Bitcoin transaction to somebody else or to another exchange would have taken 3 months to clear. And in that time, the price dropped by several $1,000s. So essentially, this is similar to what happened with CryptoKitties as well. I mean, when you take a look at CryptoKitties, everyone's just trying to get into CryptoKitties, and basically, that jams up the entire network, and your transactions cannot go through. So when you're thinking about adaptability, when you're thinking about the whole world trying to adopt Bitcoin, Ethereum, any other cryptocurrency, you need to consider that there is a world that's outside of the crypto space. And basically, you need to make sure that the prices do not slip. So while you're in your little container, your transactions have to go faster, and basically, you don't miss any opportunities that happen on the outside, especially now that you're seeing a lot of bridges in between the crypto and the traditional finance world. So scalability in essence, because Ethereum is one of the platforms where it has the most smart contracts and decentralized applications built on top of it. This means that every single imaginable product out there has an implementation on Ethereum, and at the moment it can only support 13 transactions per second, which is actually very, very scary. So when you're seeing that there's a new DeFi protocol coming up, or if a DeFi protocol gets hacked, there are a lot of people trying to go in or exit the protocol at any given time. So what you've got is a sudden spike in transactions. So you'll see that the fees on the Ethereum network, because it's like a bidding war, the price will go up maybe about 5-10 times during a short period of time, and then this basically makes it very unfeasible. So if you've got any open positions on these DeFi platforms, you're actually at a risk, because the world outside, in the centralized finance world, the price will still change, but maybe not on those DeFi platforms at all. So, you really need to find a way. And I think Matic actually helps with this a lot, to scale up the transactions and to improve the feasibility, because if your technology isn't able to support large amounts of transactions at any given time, it becomes very hard to adopt. So I think the Matic network is a very good example of something that can help with this.
Thanks. JT, is there any other angle that you have with regards to scalability, why it's an issue and why it requires to be solved, basically?
Definitely. I just echoing what Kelvin said. Of course, when something you need to do quickly, and everyone is trying to do the same, it will just kind of you are stuck with transactions. And the second issue also, like Kelvin mentioned, is the fees, right? So fees dramatically increase a lot. So for the retailers, let's say if you're a small newbie in the crypto, right, and paying $100 as a fee, it's not a good way to onboard any new users, right? So with Matic network, with Polygon, we are solving kind of two issues in a sense, like the scalability, of course, like you can send up multiple transactions at the same time. And the second thing is it reduces the fees for the transactions, right? So let's say if you just for example, right? So NFTs, like take an example of NFTs. If you mint NFTs 2 months back on Ethereum chain, it would have taken $100 for you, right? For any designer, any art creators, right? Any creators. But you can do the same on Polygon with maybe, 1 cent. Simple as that, right? So this is like far cheaper than what you expect on the Ethereum chain. So those kind of issues we are solving with Polygon. Yes.
Okay, yeah, wonderful. That's great to hear. And Jainty, to follow up on that, and at the risk of asking a tough question, but if I understand correctly, Polygon was not the first to try and solve the scalability challenge. It's been around for a while. Other people have tried to do it. What makes it different? What makes your project different? You're on mute, by the way, Jainty.
Sorry. So yeah, so when we started, there were already few projects solving the same thing, like state channels. We have a state channel projects. Seller was there, and then here we had Omise Go and multiple others, like doing the same thing, solving the scalability. The thing we did the differently is this: looking at the if you think about and see the bigger picture here, we thought as a developer perspective, right? Not just a tech perspective. Like we thought, like what developer want, right? So as I said, developers are lazy, right? So they want just a similar tech as Ethereum. They want more features, not a less, right? So if you say, okay, hey, you cannot do certain amount of things on the scale of some particular scaling solution, they won't use it. They will hesitate to use it, or there are multiple reasons for that, because they are just working to get more and more users for their DApp, for their applications, right? They are not kind of looking to have a better tech to build on. They're just fighting for the market share in reality, right? So they want to build faster, they want to iterate faster. If you ask someone that any developer, okay, hey, you just deploy once and you cannot change it, then they will kind of hesitate. No, I want to iterate my product. I want to, let's say, expand my project. So even if you say, okay, hey, once you deploy on the particular chain, you cannot change the specific chain at all. Then they will kind of they won't deploy it, right? So those kind of issues Sechernals had, where you can first define your contract, and that's it. You cannot change it. If you want to change it, you have to migrate the whole thing to new thing, right? So this is very scary for the developers. They don't want to do that. What we did is that we created a similar experience of Ethereum. It works the same as Ethereum. It works with the same tools as Ethereum. So you can use the Truffle, you can use the debugger, you can deploy same thing with same tools as Ethereum. So that changed a lot for us. Also, like we had a kind of inbuilt bridge into the Polygon network. So people don't have to kind of work toward to move their tokens from Ethereum chain to new chain for the scalability, right? What we did is kind of provide end-to-end solution from bridging, from moving one chain to another chain, Ethereum chain to Polygon chain, having a better experience with the MetaMask directly, no change in MetaMask experience. So those kind of small thing, it seems like a small, but it made a huge difference for the developer community and the users in general. And that's where kind of we got a huge growth in terms of users and applications. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. I really didn't know that, and that makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
I want to quickly, I still want to talk about the tech later on, but I also want to kind of talk about why we listed the coin on Equonex, and maybe that's a question for Kelvin. Our listing committee, if I understand correctly, looks at hundreds of different coins. Why did we choose Matic at this point in time?
Yep, certainly. So I guess before we go into the reasons, let me give a little bit of background as to the listing process on Equonex. So essentially, we take a look at the coin from multiple angles. So we want to make sure that whatever coin we list is essentially something that can contribute to the ecosystem as a whole. So we want to make sure that the coin has a real-world utility, which aims to solve a real-world problem. So in the case of Matic, this would be scalability, and scaling up the Ethereum transactions is definitely something that the ecosystem needs. I think with regards to the philosophy behind the listing of the exchange, we look at trust, governance, transparency, and as I mentioned earlier, real world utility. So we look at whether or not the source code of the smart contract is audited. We take a look at the GitHub of the project and make sure that there are still changes and improvements being made. So in the case of Matic, we take a look at the POS portal and the BOR repositories. There's a lot of changes and improvements that go in there, and especially with the bridges as well. We look at the team. So the team has a very strong engineering background, as a nod to Jainty right here. And they have been able to deliver their promises over the last couple of years. And we've seen that the mainnet has been launched last year. And basically, the protocol and the team has also got a lot of community interactions. So it's a very well-rounded perspective of any particular project. And Matic essentially topped our list because it ticks all the boxes.
I just want to add what Calvin said. Delivering something you promise is a big thing in crypto, right? Like if you see the scalability landscape, there are many projects who kind of promise that we will solve the scalability, but they never launched, right? So like I think that's a bigger part. We actually delivered our mainnet in last June. And before that also we have multiple stages of mainnet, like alpha 2, and people have deployed and used that before we launched mainnet. So like in general sense, we were ready with our product 1.5 years before. So it was like crazy times. Yeah,
that's great, and also great to see that it's been a success and that it's being recognized. JT, actually, is it important for you to be listed on venues such as Equonex, that are focused on governance, or NASDAQ listed, or have that kind of transparency?
Definitely. If you see the landscape of the exchanges, right? Like there are many exchanges. Like one is of course, you guys, and then we have a Coinbase, which is very much lawful in US, and we have like multiple small exchanges here and there without any kind of due diligence, right? So having like Equinox on with Matic is a huge vote of confidence for the project, right? Like it means like we are kind of decentralized. We have a proper team in the background to deliver what we have promised. Also, it means that we have enough liquidity in the market, and the whole retailers and the investors are kind of use that Matic tokens instead of having a few whales in the system and manipulating the price and everything. So the having you guys like Kelvin and the team with the Matic token is a huge thing for us and for the Matic community, Polygon community as well. Yeah, definitely.
Great, that's so nice to hear. And again, as you mentioned, it's the culmination of a journey that's still ongoing and probably going to take you further. But maybe to look back upon that journey, can you tell us a bit more about the Polygon story thus far? And I want to say in terms of highlights along the journey, not necessarily where the idea came from or the things you've developed from a tech perspective, but throughout the length of the project. Are there any moments or highlights that come to mind?
Yes. No. So first of all, like first milestone, we were happy when kind of Coinbase and Binance invested in Matic very early on, right? And coming from the Indian origin, like we started out from India, it was very tough to raise the money in general. Like, and the ecosystem was not developed in India, and still like we were able to get the money from Binance and Coinbase at the time. And the second thing, we launched mainnet as promised, and in full capacity. And then in general, we onboarded Aave, specifically Polymarket, and multiple other DeFi projects, SushiSwap, Curve Finance, now have Set Protocol today, and multiple 500 plus applications you see on the Polygon. We also rebranded and expanded our the vision. Before we just supported Plasma and the proof of stake chain. And now we are also expanding to optimistic rollups, ZK rollups, and app specific side chains using the Polygon SDKs, right? So those moments are like very important in journey of the Polygon and for the investors and the community of the Polygon. And I think, yeah, I would definitely want to highlight those. Like every day we are onboarding 3 to 5 applications on Polygon, and that's a huge thing, right? Where you can see this kind of traction in blockchain, right? Nowhere. Like it only exists on the Polygon. Yeah.
For sure. That's great. Super happy to hear about the successes. In order maybe to look at the different view, can you tell us about the biggest challenges that you faced throughout the journey? Because I'm guessing it wasn't always great
Yeah.
and fun and rainbows, right?
Yeah. I mean, to start with, investment was very tough when we started. Like getting investment from the good investors it was very hard. And then hiring, of course, like when you don't have a money, you don't have a name traction, it's very hard to hire good people and use them to build something you want. But yeah, like we kind of figured it out here and there. We hired freshers from the colleges and asked them, kind of teach them like what is a blockchain and everything, and train them. And then at a certain point of time, like we were also kind of getting a huge tractions on the dApp, but we were not happy with that because like we were still struggling to get good tabs on the Polygon, right? And then kind of with Aave and the Poly market, it changed, right? And still then, like we had like ups and down in everywhere. So I think building a good project or startup, it takes a lot of time and your energy in general. Yeah.
Sure. Well, that's great to see that you've made it through all that. While I have you, but Kelvin will come to you in a moment with more questions. But Jainty, for users who want to use the Polygon network, how do they do that?
Yeah. So so if you are on the Ethereum network, right? So if you are using Ethereum network daily basis, or you are maybe using Ethereum once in a while, we have a wallet called wallet.matic.network. It's basically just a bridge where you can go and move your tokens from Ethereum chain to Polygon chain, right? So you deposit your tokens, like one click and deposit, and then it will kind of appear on your wallet on the Polygon chain, right? So all the validators agrees on the thing that you deposited, right? And then it will kind of give you those tokens on the Ethereum on the Polygon chain. And then now you can use the Polygon chain for transfers, for interacting with the multiple dApps as you would do on the Ethereum chain, right? No changes there. You just change the MetaMask that, okay, now select the Matic network as a Polygon network as a network, right? Instead of the Ethereum, right? And then that's it. Like nothing changed for you as a user. It's same, works as the same. And then let's say if you want to move back to Ethereum, you just initiate the process on the UI we built, right? And then you can move your tokens back to Ethereum. But yeah, of course, like currently we are providing our own wallet, but you can create your own interface because everything is decentralized. You don't need us or our UI to move the tokens from one chain to another chain. It's just a process. We just provide a better experience for the users, but you can create your own experience for your application. So people are doing that. Multiple applications, multiple dApps have their own deposit and withdraw mechanism inbuilt for them, for their users. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Any new features that you have in the pipeline that you want to share?
Yeah. So till yesterday, like till today, like we had a Coinbase supporting Polygon network inbuilt in the Polygon app. So they just announced today morning, like they are supporting Polygon network. So it was in the pipeline so long. We are also working with a few wallet providers as well, and they will provide Polygon inbuilt in that application. So you don't have to worry about the adding your URL for the Matic network or Infura URL. It just works as Ethereum. So yeah, those kind of thing will come.
Okay.
One thing I want to also mention is that we are also working on widgets for deposit and withdraw. So let's say you are building on Polygon, right? And you want your users to move your tokens from Ethereum chain to your Polygon chain in your application. You can just include one small code snippet in your application, and then it will just works out the box like widgets, PayPal widgets or Stripe widget, kind of thing. So yeah, it's in pipeline. Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting. That's exciting stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question, which I suspect founders of projects don't like or even might be very biased about. But what do you think about the price? Do you have any predictions for Matic, by say year end or in 5 years time? Again, that's a question a lot of people ask when we talk about tokens.
Yeah. I generally avoid it, to be honest, because price is very much a sensitive topic. I don't want to talk about in the public forum, and maybe it depends. We are delivering as we promising, right? We have multiple things in the pipeline, so I think people would just judge like where it will go in the future. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I won't give you any kind of hint. Sorry.
Fair enough. That's a very diplomatic answer to give, and I like it very much. Maybe less diplomatic, but Kelvin, do you have any thoughts, on the price action of Matic? I'm guessing we're not going to be bearish right now, but still, do you have any thoughts on maybe how crypto markets affect, Matic or how it can develop in the next year or 5 years?
Yeah, I think generally, if you're taking a look at a project which has been delivering on its promises and posting up milestones as they come along, and those milestones are publicly verifiable, I think as long as any project would do this, it's definitely possible to see positive price action, because essentially when people take a look at the value that a project brings, essentially they take this into account. You take a look at the adoption, you take a look at the the amount of interest that's available in this project, right? And I guess to this point, Matic hasn't shown any signs of stopping. I mean, if you take a look at the price action over the last 3 months, you see an increase of more than 100%, all-time high increase of about 250% or somewhere around that amount. And I think as you start seeing, when we first evaluated Matic, I think there was less than 300 decentralized applications that were on Matic, but today, as Jane T mentioned, there's more than 500. So you can see that there's a very, very large explosive growth in a very small amount of time. And I think the market is starting to recognize that this growth, is something that you cannot ignore. So if you were to take a look at it over the long term, I think as long as people start realizing the adoption factor that Matic brings in to the entire crypto ecosystem, I don't see a reason that it will not go up. So that's my view.
I absolutely love that answer. And I'm guessing Jane T also liked it, but we won't ask for any confirmation. That's all good. Kelvin, while I have you here actually, and I know you're very knowledgeable about tech, what do you think about the industry more broadly? Everybody's talking about Ethereum's upgrade. What's your take on that specifically, or maybe crypto markets in general? Up to you to answer the question as you wish.
Yeah, sure. So maybe I'll start by talking about the Ethereum upgrades themselves. So today we saw that there were 2 Ethereum improvement proposals that were approved and merged into the Ethereum mainnet. So EIP 1559, which is a fee market change for the ETH 1.0 chain, that was basically merged today. So essentially what happens is that, there's a change in the transaction pricing. So there's a mechanism that was introduced, which includes fixed per block network fees. And that's Burn, and dynamically expands a contracts, the block sizes are dynamically expanded or contracted to deal with transient congestion. So essentially what this means is that, if the size of the blocks will be resized according to how congested the network is. So it helps a little bit with the scalability factor. There's another one, which is EIP 3554. So that's the difficulty bomb delay. So the difficulty bomb in Ethereum is essentially a adjustment mechanism for miners to basically increase the difficulty of mining significantly. So that has been delayed a few times. And I guess with the slow movements in the improvements in Ethereum, it has been delayed again until December 2021. Now, I think Ethereum is definitely trying to improve its scalability factor, but while it is not a proof of stake network, it's very, very hard for it to do so. I mean, if you take a look at it now, the transactions per second count is still 13, whereas with Matic it's about 7,000 for one sidechain, and it could be more. JT, please correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially, I think it's very hard for Ethereum to keep up with Matic at this point in time. Now, when you take a look at the entire market, you see that you've got others like Binance Smart Chain, which also has a very high transactions per second count, but that's owned by a centralized company, which is Binance in itself. I guess the thing is that with Ethereum, at the current stage, it's got most of the DeFi applications built on top of that, and it's an extremely mature ecosystem. Many people have built a lot of applications on there and are familiar with the EVM, right, the Ethereum virtual machine. So I think when you take a look at Matic as well, because it's EVM compatible, a lot of people will find it very, very easy to move on from the Ethereum network into the Matic network. And I think what's even more awesome is that Matic is actually built, with Ethereum in mind, with a bridge. So, or two bridges, I guess, in this case. So I think, no signs of stopping from me. And I think that's all from me on that.
Oh, that's great. Great feedback, actually. JT, do you have any views on that? And also maybe on how those upgrades or development will impact Polygon network? I'm guessing it's a positive, is it?
Yes, definitely positive. I think EIP 1559 and the upcoming Ethereum 2.0, both will give the Ethereum stability and the more power to users for sending deposits and withdrawals from the layer 2s, right? So in general, I'm very much optimistic about the Ethereum 2.0 in near future, and those upgrades will have a massive floodgates for the applications and the normal finance guys to jump into the cryptos, because when we saw the scalability, always more and more people try to use the network, right? So what happens is, if you think about the Ethereum network, people making transactions on Ethereum is like a 1.5 million per day in 2 years back. But now we have Ethereum plus Polygon. Polygon is making 8 million transactions per day, right? So why? Because more and more people started using blockchain, Ethereum, and creating the applications on blockchains, Ethereum blockchains, and that will increase the transactions for the per day, right? And I'm seeing even if we scale in the future with 2.0 and multiple L2s, it will also gets filled up very easily in the near future. So I'm very hoping we need more and more scaling as we go ahead in the future. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks for the feedback. By the way, I actually see that there's quite a few questions coming from the audience. For those who haven't asked questions, feel free to do it on the Q&A function. But I thought I would actually start and ask you questions directly from our audience. I think that'll be interesting. And I see some very interesting questions, actually. One is coming from Jack Gillett. How should we understand the differences between quote unquote side chains and then solutions like Polygon compared to totally separate networks like the Binance Smart Chain? They both support smart contracts based on the EVM, both use proof of stake, and both provide bridges for ERC20 token in their native token standard. So do you have any comments on that, JT?
Yeah, definitely. Just first of all, just correction here, like we just have a one chain proof of stake commit chain. Uh, we also have a Plasma L2, and we're also going to have multiple roll-ups and ZK roll-ups. So we are not just a kind of sidechain solutions as you have described. Second thing is that when we talk about the proof of stake system, bridges on the BSC, Binance Smart Chain, or other blockchain like L1s, there are much kind of huge difference everywhere. So first difference is that for the Matic, for the blockchain Polygon itself, staking happens on the Ethereum chain. You don't go on the Polygon chain and the stake there. Your tokens, your security of the delegations or validators happens on the stays on the Ethereum chain. So that's the huge difference between the other chains and the Polygon chain, right? The second thing is that BSC, if you see, you can create people are creating bridges between the two chains and moving the tokens from one chain to another chain. Polygon has an inbuilt bridge, right? Of course, you can create a bridge, your own bridge, but it will use the underlying mechanism of the validator consensus. So it won't have external securities like external validator security. It actually inherits the security of the validators, the whole proof of stake systems which Polygon has, right? So it's a huge difference. So let's say if you so for example, in BSC, like you create your own bridge, but it requires the different security assumption, right? For Polygon, that's not the case, right? For Polygon, it actually same security as the proof of stake system which a Polygon has, the inbuilt, right? So you can create our own bridge. It's just a deploy of contracts, no service required, right? There is no service you run on your servers. It's just two contracts on both the side, and it will work out of the box, because it works like it moves the data, arbitrary data, from one chain to another chain, not just a particular stake, a particular tokens data, right? So you can create a customization, you can create your own bridge, but use the same security model as the Polygon POS, not your own security model. So huge difference, yeah. So okay. I've seen chain swap on the BSC just hacked few days back. That won't happen on the Polygon bridge because everyone has a proof of stake security of the Polygon. So it can't happen on the Polygon. Yeah.
Understood. Kelvin, is there anything you want to add to that? I remember you actually touched upon it previously, talking about Binance as a centralized entity managing the blockchain. Is that a concern for you, or what other implications do you think that has?
Yep. So I think with centralized systems, I think especially when you're trying to create a blockchain and basically when you're controlling the bridges to and from various chains, I think basically the centralized exchange, if it's not regulated or if they're not transparent about their processes, then it becomes very, very hard for us to be able to trust that the funds will remain secure at all times. Because essentially, if you are an entity which controls the in and outflows without being transparent or regulated, then it becomes extremely hard for us to be able to trust the security of our funds. So I think what Polygon has done is really fantastic. The fact that it's just literally two smart contracts on either side, and which are very publicly verifiable, auditable, and if you can read the code, you'll know that what exactly happens will be based on certain inputs. It's entirely deterministic. So I think the Polygon model is really, really good. I think decentralization is very, very important, especially when we're taking a look at everybody trying to get into the cryptocurrency world, and realizing that centralized institutions are a little bit harder to trust when they're not regulated or transparent. So I think, yeah, good job, JT and team.
Thank you.
Nice. Love to hear that kind of feedback. A question from Dimitri Gaidukov. One of the things that drove Ethereum price was the announcement that they will burn ETH, so that the total number of Ether would decrease. We have a total of 10 billion Matic tokens. Do we have any plans for burning?
See, people take this incorrectly. Like, it doesn't mean like 10 billion is a too much, right? It's a valuation that matters. Like, if you can have a 1 million token, but same valuation, and then token price is high, right? So it doesn't mean like 10 billion is a too high number. It seems like wrong there. We don't have a plan of burning, to be honest. Like EIP 1559, we have a proposal to send it to the community on DAO and use that to maybe community can decide to burn it or transfer it to protocol development or grants, anything they want. But still, like there is no protocol level burning as of yet. With EIP 1559, it might happen. I'm not sure because we haven't decided it yet. Community is still we are taking the thoughts of the community and taking the decision on the same, but yeah, it's still pending, right? So no, answer is clearly no. Like, we don't have a we haven't burned any tokens as of yet, or we don't have a particular plan to do that. Yes.
Fair enough. And given the price, I think we don't need much more anyway. A question from Maz Anarwala. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, but how are you able to reduce gas fees to cents on the Polygon network?
Yeah, so no, it's just a kind of economics. You can say, like, the Ethereum block time is 15 seconds plus. They also have a proof of work, so it will be a huge amount of work to be done to mine the Ethereum and also, like, if you include you have a limited size of the block, so everyone is competing and increasing the price to include it in the block. Here in Matic, like, the block size is same, but the block time is very less, and also, like, we have a proof of stake system, so it's much faster. So the thing is that you are basically competing with the people, but still there is a space in the blockchain, so you can always, like, reduce your fees and get included into the blockchain. So that's how, like, we are reducing the gas price. But of course, like, it depends on the economics of the blockchain. Let's say if you increase and everyone just increase the block fees, gas fees, it can happen like it increases the gas fees, but always, like, if there is a space, you can always decrease your size, decrease the fees, and still get included. So it's just a normal mechanism of how Ethereum works. Yeah.
Understood. A question from an attendee I won't be able to name out. It's anonymous, but how can Equo token compete with Matic and other altcoins? Kelvin, I'm guessing that's a question that's for you to answer.
Yep, sure. So I guess when we're taking a look at various tokens out there, we have a lot of categories. So Matic is, for example, a utility token where, it is a layer 2 scaling network, and it's a utility token for that layer 2 scaling ecosystem. We've got other things like Chainlink, which is a utility for an oracle. You've got GRT, which is utility for indexing, and so on and so forth. So when you take a look at Equo, it's a utility for an exchange. So it is a token which is tied to an exchange. Now, I think when you take a look at the Matic and Equo, they do completely different things. They essentially have totally different use cases, they're different value propositions. So I don't see that they are in any way a competition. However, if you take a look at Equo, you'll see that there are a lot of benefits when it's used on our exchange. You can essentially earn yield on top of that. You can basically get enhanced interest for borrowing and lending. You'll be able to receive extra airdrops and other benefits that are available on our exchanges as they come along. So the use case is extremely different, and I don't see them to be in direct competition or competition at all.
Awesome answer, Kelvin. I'm going through all the questions because I'm cognizant of time. I think there's 8-10 minutes left and quite a lot coming through. One from Claire. Uniswap announced this morning that they will be launched on Optimism. Not only Optimism, there are also other roll-up protocols like Arbitrum. what do you think of the current competitor landscape regarding different layer 2 scaling solution? What is the advantage of Polygon over those roll-up protocols? That's a long question, but Jainty, do you want to take a stab at it?
Yeah, definitely. I just saw the Uniswap is going on the Optimism, plus they are also going to deploy the Arbitrum. Uh, as a Polygon, we are also expanding our ecosystem product suite with the rollup and optimistic rollups and ZK rollups as well. The thing is that people say about, like, how optimistic rollup will solve everything, but also it also has a trade-offs, right? Your tokens will take 7 days for the withdraw. When you withdraw from the Ethereum, from the optimistic rollup chain to Ethereum chain, it will take 7 days, right? Of course, you can add the marketplace to do that, but it's very hard in real life. There are also difference between optimistic rollups, right? So Arbitrum and the optimism, right? So optimism uses have a limited contract size. You cannot deploy huge contract because they have limitations because of the fraud groups, right? On the optimistic roll on the Arbitrum, you have so let's say if something anything goes wrong, you have to be online, right? You have to be there will be challenge mechanism, kind of no asynchronous, like you first you challenge the some transactions, and then someone kind of reply with the proof. So there will be multiple steps while when something goes wrong, something goes wrong. Yeah. So now also, like, all optimistic rollups and ZK rollups have to put the data on the Ethereum chain. So it also limited in scalability, and it depends on the size of the data, because you have to put those data on the Ethereum chain. It will also be the case where it will have a higher gas fees than the Polygon chain itself, because you are putting all the data on the Ethereum chain, right? So in general, like, it will have a higher gas fee than us. So those kind of trade-off it will have. What we are going to do is that we also going to launch our own optimistic rollups and ZK rollups based and have a different trade-offs, right? So in terms of us, we will have a different data layer. It's called data availability layer, and we will put the data on the different layer, not Ethereum chain, right? And it will basically reduces the gas fees, and it increases the scalability of the rollup. So those kind of changes we're going to do. So in general, like, there is no zero sum game in general, right? We will have a multiple rollups, multiple chains in the future, and everyone is kind of having transactions, and then you can move from one chain to another chain, your tokens, those kind of thing will happen in the future. So yeah, definitely. I think I hope I answered your question, maybe. Yeah.
From where I'm standing, it seems like you did. I hope it did for the attendee as well. Another question from Erkin Rustamov. In light of global adoption of crypto and the topic of scalability, how flexible is your system in terms of introducing improvements on the transaction speed and efficiency? So have you built in mechanism that would allow for relatively easy increase of transactions per second, for example?
We don't have an inbuilt system, but we are working on multiple solutions where you have multiple chains, and then you can move your tokens from one chain to another chain. So that way we're going to increase our scalability. But yeah, of course, like, there is no inbuilt mechanism to do that. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Maybe a question for you, Kelvin. We haven't heard enough about you in the past few minutes. With the development of Solana, Phantom, Harmony, etc., do you think we will see a multi-chain future or more of a winner-takes-all future?
Yeah, so I see this as a good thing, actually, when you look at multiple chains. Basically, if all these chains are available, out there, you essentially have healthy competition. And basically, people can deploy their same application across multiple venues, across multiple blockchains. And essentially what this means is that for traders and for the users, actually, this is a good thing in the sense that you can perform arbitrage trades across, the different platforms or the different chains. I think it's quite likely that we'll see them all work together. I mean, while they may be operating in slightly different tangents, I feel that it also gives a lot of opportunities because you see some things with certain advantages over the other, and basically when you have several similar applications deployed on different places, this means that there are actually more trading opportunities out there.
Understood. Jainty, actually, maybe you can pick up on that question as well. Do you see a multi-chain future or a winner takes all?
Yeah, I see the multi-chain future. We are working on those things. So yeah, we definitely believe on that.
Okay, wonderful. An interesting question. What is one asset outside of Matic, Ethereum, and Bitcoin that you like most? So something that is not Matic, Ethereum, or Bitcoin. What's an asset that you are particularly interested in?
Yeah, I hold both of them, Ethereum and Bitcoin. Yeah, but yeah, of course, like Ethereum has a better chance to win in the future, because people are building on it, community is better, and so yeah, I would go for the Ethereum. Yeah.
Understood. Sorry. And Kelvin, what are your thoughts? Maybe between Ethereum and Bitcoin, or another asset outside of those two in Matic?
Yep. So I think Ethereum for me is probably the clear winner. At least from my viewpoint, from my little world. Purely because I think it's the use case that drives it, because Ethereum is essentially what people build things on in crypto. Now, it has a very, very strong community. In terms of the active development, I think it actually gets developed a lot faster. And I'm probably speaking from a computer scientist perspective. The improvements get implemented a lot faster. You see that the community is a little bit more willing to take risks than the Bitcoin community. But however, I think that each asset has its own use case, has its own specialties and pros and cons. So I guess if you take a look at Bitcoin, it's more like a store of value, whereas when you take a look at Ethereum, it has a lot of use cases to it. So personal preference would be Ether first, but I'm not discounting Bitcoin either.
Nice. We're actually almost running over. We just have a few minutes and I have a special announcement to make. But let me ask one final question to both our panelists. How does your audience get in touch with you? Are you a Telegram, Twitter, email person? And if so, what are the details to use? Jainty?
Yeah, don't ping me on Telegram because so many scams are going on my name. Like, you search my name and it will pop up like many things. So I'm at Twitter, very, very active. So you can ping me at Twitter at _JD Kanani, @_JD Kanani. And DM me, but DM is open. So you can just send messages there. Yeah.
Nice. Kelvin, what's your platform? How do people reach you?
Yep. So please don't reach me by Telegram either. I'm on Twitter, KTingYY, KTINGYY. So you can follow me there. So I'm basically there as my own public profile, and you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. So I'm Kelvin Ting on LinkedIn, and you can find me under the Equinix employees group. So thank you.
Cool. I encourage everybody to go out and follow you guys. Thank you all for watching and also for the panelists. Great event. I know I've certainly learned a lot. We are giving away 5 Matic to 100 lucky viewers of today's webinar. We will email you in the next week if you've won with the details on how to claim your prize. We will also share a recording of today's event on our Learn Hub, so learn.equonex.com. And if you're excited to start trading Matic, head over to equonex.com to set up an account, get started. As an added incentive, for the whole of July, we're offering new clients $50 worth of our own native token, so EQO or Equo, for signing up and passing KYC. So Equo offers, and Kelvin touched upon it during the webinar, but exclusive benefits such as reduced fees, enhanced interest rates. You'll be eligible to use it as cross-collateral soon. And you'll also be entitled to airdrops, one of which is coming very soon. So if you're not an Equo holder, hurry to Equonex now, get signed up. More details on the airdrop will be revealed in the next few weeks. That is really all we have time for. I think we're running over. Thank you, Jainty and Kelvin again. I wish you all a very productive and happy day ahead.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Kelvin.